We do not have any information to indicate that a foreign terrorist group directed the attack in Orlando.
I'm going to get out.
It is increasingly clear, however, that the killer took in extremist information and propaganda.
What do they tell these people in the mosque?
He appears to have been an angry, disturbed, unstable young man who became radicalized. As we know all too well, terrorist groups like ISIL have called on people around the world and here in the United States to attack
lectures in the mosque.
innocent civilians. Their propaganda, their videos, their postings are pervasive and more easily accessible than we want. This individual appears to have absorbed some of that, and during his killing spree, the shooter in Orlando pledged allegiance to ISIL. As I've said before, these lone actors or small cells of terrorists are very hard to detect and very hard to prevent. But across our government, at every level, federal, state, and local, military and civilian, we are doing everything in our power to stop
except
these
sending
kinds
out
of attacks.
fucking mosques. These bastards are breeding.
To succeed 100% of the time. An attacker, as we saw in Orlando, only has to succeed once. Our extraordinary personnel, our intelligence, our military, our homeland security, our law enforcement have prevented many attacks and saved many lives, and we can never thank them enough.
Then there was a couple in California that came out shooting.
By the fact that
fresh out of a mosque. And here's this little mosque motherfucker.
Something like Orlando can occur.
French.
In our meeting today, Director Comey updated us on the investigation in Orlando. Secretary Johnson reviewed the measures we continue to take
you ain't gonna do shit,
security.
you know?
Secretary Carter and Chairman Dunford.
Look, it's going to be out your gay buddies against your Muslim buddies, you know, and see who wins, right?
His team here at Treasury
Christians don't seem to give a shit.
And for their tireless efforts to cut off the money that ISIL relies on to fund its terror network.
Our tax dollars.
At the outset, I want to reiterate our objective in this fight. Our mission is to destroy ISIL. Since I last updated the people on our campaign 2 months ago,
you invented the motherfucker, so what's that going to do?
A difficult fight, but we are making significant progress.
You're funding them.
Over the past 2 months, I've authorized a series of steps to ratchet up our fight against ISIL. Additional U.S. personnel, including special forces,
make up something so you can destroy it and have it done a thing.
Battling ISIL there. Additional advisors to work more closely with Iraqi security forces, and additional assets, including attack helicopters, and additional support for local forces in northern Iraq. Our aircraft continue to launch from the USS Harry Truman. Now in the
What's that got to
Mediterranean,
do with the fucking shit right now,
B-52
dude?
bombers are hitting ISIL with precision strikes.
But you don't have any solution.
Targets are being identified and hit even more quickly. So far, 13,000 airstrikes. So this campaign at this stage is firing on all cylinders. And as a result, ISIL's under more pressure than ever before.
Fronted by
ISIL
the taxpayer dollars.
Key leaders. This includes Salman Abshahib, the senior military leader in Mosul, Abu Saab al-Sudani, who plotted external attacks, Shakir Wahib, ISIL's military leader in Iraq's Anbar province, and Mahir al-Balawi, the top ISIL commander in Fallujah. So far, we've taken out more than 120 top ISIL leaders and commanders. And our message is clear. If you target America and our allies, you will not be safe. You will never be safe. ISIL continues to lose ground in Iraq. In the past 2 months, local forces in Iraq, with coalition support, have liberated the western town of Rutba and have also pushed up the Euphrates River Valley, liberating the strategic town of Heat and breaking the ISIL siege of Haditha.
You're skipping so much out here about what needs to be done about these radical Muslims in America.
Iraqi forces continue to push up the Tigris River Valley, making gains around Makmur, and now preparing to tighten the noose.
It's like going to the mosque and clear them out of any weapons.
Lost nearly half of the populated
food
territory
supplies.
that once controlled in Iraq, and it will lose more.
And if they want to stay, they need to burn
in Syria as well.
The
Assisted by our
Quran.
special
They need
operations
to turn
forces,
over completely
the
if it's
coalition of local
possible.
forces is now
If
pressuring
not,
the
then
key
they
town
need to be all
of
deported,
Manbij,
swim back to
which
Mecca.
means the noose is
We don't
tightening
need
around
them.
ISIL
We don't
in
want
Raqqa
them.
as well. In short, our coalition continues to be
But I
on
understand that
offense.
the refugees are
ISIL
here
is on
because if they
defense,
don't
and it's
share
now been a
in
full year
the war, they
since
don't get
ISIL
a
has
piece
been
of
able to mount a
nothing.
major successful
They don't get
offensive
anything.
operation in either
Only the ones
Syria
here,
or Iraq.
they get a share of the booty when they
As ISIL
take
continues
over a
to lose
country.
territory, it also continues
And
to
all
lose
the
money
people
that
in the
it is,
country become their
that is
slaves.
its lifeblood.
And they're
As a result of
sold.
our strikes against its oil infrastructure,
What are
and
we
supply
doing
lines,
about that?
we believe that we've cut ISIL's
It's just
revenue
like
from
bullshit,
oil by
mother
millions of dollars
effer.
per month. In destroying the storage sites where they keep
Yeah.
their cash, we've deprived ISIL of many millions more. Thanks to the great work of Secretary Liu and many others here today.
And for the
And
writers,
working
you
with
made up your
nations
little
and financial
speech, your
institutions around the
BS, and then
world,
continue your crap,
ISIL's
you
now
know?
effectively cut off from the international financial system. Cutting off ISIL's money may not be as dramatic as military strikes, but
Well,
it
then
is
the taxpayers will
critically
have a little
important,
more
and we're
money
seeing
for
the
ourselves,
results.
won't we?
ISIL's cash reserves are down. It has had to cut salaries for its fighters. It's resorting to more extortion of
Talk
those
about
trapped
cutting
in its
salaries.
grip. And by ISIL's own admission, some of its own leaders have been caught stealing cash and gold. Once again, ISIL's true nature has been revealed. These are not religious warriors. They are thugs and they are thieves.
Much like the
Continue to
cult
push on this
Muslims.
front. I
Is that
want
what
to
you're
mention that
saying?
it is critical for our friends in the Senate to confirm Adam Zubin, my nominee for Undersecretary of Terrorism and Financial Intelligence. Adam has served in Democratic and Republican
You
administrations.
know, I've ever seen this guy.
Everyone
I would
agrees he's
want to
eminently
slap
qualified.
him, you
He
know?
has been
Really,
working
just bitch
on
slap him real
these
hard.
kinds of issues for years. It's now been more than a year since I nominated him. More than 420 days, and he still has not been given a full vote. There is no good reason for it. It is inexcusable. So it's time for the Senate to do its job, put our national security first, and have a vote on Adam Zubin that can lead our
National
financial fight
security.
against ISIL and help keep our country safe.
Inexcusable that you haven't done something about
ISIL's
gathering
ranks
your little
are
herd
shrinking as well. Their
and shipping
morale
them back.
is sinking. As one defender, as one defector said, ISIL is not bringing Islam to the world, and people need to know that. Thanks to international
Bringing
efforts,
Islam
the
to the
flow
world.
of foreign fighters, including from America to Syria and
So
Iraq,
that's
has
what you're
plummeted.
about. You're bringing
In fact, our
Islam
intelligence
to the
community now
world.
assesses that the ranks of ISIL fighters has been reduced to the lowest levels.
Oh, that's where
in
they
more
have
than
this
2.5
book.
years.
It's a pedophile
Even as
Bible
we continue
book
to destroy
that allows
ISIL militarily, we're addressing larger
incest
forces
and
that have allowed
allows
these terrorists to gain traction in
pedophiles.
parts of the world. With regard to Iraq,
makes it
this
legal.
means helping Iraqis stabilize liberated communities.
Pedophiles
and
in your
promote
area,
inclusive
your
governance
neighborhood, they will
so
love this
ISIL
kind of
cannot
news.
Return. With regard to Syria, it means our continued support for the
On Facebook this morning is one like there's
there.
no age limit to the wives, you know, 1, 2,
cessation of
3, 4,
hostilities has not
5,
stopped
9, you
all
know.
or even most
Doesn't matter the
of
age.
the hardship on the Syrian people, the hardship on civilians. And the Assad regime has been the principal culprit in violating the cessation of hostilities. ISIL and al-Nusra, which is al-Qaeda's affiliate in Syria, also continue to terrorize Syrians. But as fragile and incomplete as the cessation is, it has saved lives and it has allowed the delivery of some life-saving aid to Syrians who are in desperate need. And as difficult as it is, we will continue to push for a political process that can end the civil war and result in a transition away from Assad. Beyond Syria and Iraq, ISIL is also losing ground in Libya. Forces of the Libyan unity government are going after ISIL in their stronghold in Sirte, and will continue to assist the new Libyan government as it works to secure its country.
But he
Lastly,
hasn't said anything about the Muslim
home.
problem. The
if
couple
we
in
really
California
wanna
that
help
came
law
out
enforcement
blasting
protect
people, and this
Americans
guy
from
here come out
homegrown
blasting people, and they're
extremists,
throwing gays off the 20-story buildings, you know.
the kind of tragedies that occurred at San Bernardino and that now have occurred in
Yeah.
Orlando.
Freaking Muslims, right?
There is a
Came
meaningful
fresh out of a
way
mosque.
to do that. We have to make it harder for people who want to kill Americans to get their hands on weapons of war that let them kill dozens of innocents.
Yeah, it's blaming
It is
on the
absolutely
weapons,
true. We
right?
cannot prevent every tragedy. But we know that.
We're understanding the problem that
there are
it wasn't the one gunman that, shot all those people. It was 103 people that didn't have a gun to protect themselves.
Of somebody who intends to do other people harm. We should give ATF the resources they need to enforce the gun laws that we already have. People with possible ties to terrorism who aren't allowed on a plane shouldn't be allowed to buy a gun.
So if you're a Muslim, you shouldn't be allowed to own a gun.
Being tough on terrorism. Actually be tough on terrorism. And stop making it easy as possible for terrorists to buy assault weapons.
A Muslim to buy an assault weapon.
Make it harder for terrorists to use these weapons to kill us.
Harder for them to use?
Despite extraordinary efforts across our government, by local law enforcement.
I don't see any Muslims in the crowd right there. He's throwing some shit at us right now, motherfucker, you know. We're in there to protect.
These kinds of events are going to keep on happening.
Like I say, if those 103 people would have had a weapon, I'll be damn sure they wouldn't be 50 dead people right now. There'd be one dead Muslim with 100 so many. Just empty the bullets out. You got a 9/11 round.
The main contribution
103 people dumping them out.
Have made in the fight against ISIL is to criticize
we can scrape that Muslim up
and me for not
fit
using
it
the
to the
phrase radical
sharks.
Islam. That's the key, they tell us. We can't beat ISIL unless we call them radical Islamists. What exactly would using this label accomplish? What exactly would it change? Would it make ISIL less committed to trying to kill Americans? Would it bring in more allies? Is there a military strategy that is served by this? The answer is none of the above. Calling a threat by a different name does not make it go away. This is a political distraction. Since before I was president, I've been clear about how extremist groups have perverted Islam to justify terrorism. As president, I have repeatedly called on our Muslim friends and allies at home and around the world to work with us to reject this twisted interpretation of one of the world's great religions.
Fucking religion.
There's not been a moment in my 7.5 years as president where we have not been able to pursue a strategy because we didn't use the label radical Islam.
For
Not
what
once
it is.
Has an advisor of mine said, man, if we really use that phrase, we're going to turn this whole thing around. Not once. So if someone seriously thinks that we don't know who we're fighting, if there's anyone out there who thinks we're confused about who our enemies are,
it's the Americans is your enemy.
It will come as a surprise to the thousands of terrorists who we've taken
and whoever's pulling your strings.
If the implication is that those of us up here and the thousands of people around the country and around the world who are working to defeat ISIL aren't taking the fight seriously,
well, not when you're using taxpayers' dollars to fund the bastards and buy them weapons.
Al-Qaeda and the Fatah, for example.
Accidentally drop off supplies for them.
Put their lives at risk. And the special forces that I ordered to get bin Laden and are now on the ground in Iraq and in Syria. They know full well who the enemy is. So do the
You going
intelligence
somewhere or
and
what?
law enforcement officers who spend countless hours disrupting
You
plots
trying to go in there, or what are you doing?
and protecting all Americans, including politicians who tweet and appear on cable news shows. They know who the nature of the enemy is. So there's no magic to the phrase radical Islam. It's a political talking point. It's not a strategy. And the reason I am careful about how I describe this threat has nothing to do with political correctness and everything to do with actually defeating extremism. Groups like ISIL and Al-Qaeda want to make this war a war between Islam and America, or between Islam and the West.
And that's why they built all the mosques here in America, so they have forts.
They want to claim that they are the true leaders of over 1 billion Muslims around the world who reject their crazy notions. They want us
If
to
you really
validate them
reject it, then why don't you
by
burn those
implying that they
Qurans
speak
and
for
get rid of your Sharia
those
law
billion-plus people, that
that
they
allows
speak for Islam.
pedophiles to do their thing?
That's their propaganda. That's how they recruit. And if we fall into the trap of painting all Muslims with a broad brush and imply that we are at war with an entire religion, then we are doing the terrorist work for them. Now, up until this point, this argument about labels
It's just that he still call them a religion.
has mostly just been partisan rhetoric. And sadly, we've all become
I guess somebody that
accustomed,
would take down the American
kind of
flag and put up a Islam
even when
prayer rug
it involves
to hang behind him,
the fight against
I guess he would say
these
something like
extremist
that.
groups. And that kind of yapping has not prevented folks across government from doing their jobs, from sacrificing and working really hard to protect the American people. But we are now seeing how dangerous
I would say corral
this kind of mindset and this kind of thinking can be.
the American people.
We're starting to see where this kind of rhetoric and loose talk and sloppiness about who exactly we're fighting, where this can lead us. We now have proposals from the presumptive Republican nominee for president of the United States to bar all Muslims from emigrating to America.
Well, that's where the problem's coming from. What are you supposed to
We
do?
hear language that singles out immigrants
Kind of wrecks your
and
plan,
suggests
doesn't it?
entire religious communities are complicit in violence. Where does this stop?
Well, after Islam is
The Orlando killer,
taken over your country,
one of the San Bernardino
then everybody
killers,
becomes a slave, and then they own all your
Fort
stuff.
Hood killer,
That's when it stops.
they were all U.S. citizens. Are we going to start treating all Muslim Americans differently?
Hell no.
Are we going to start subjecting them to special surveillance?
Exactly.
Are we
I
gonna
think
start
they should be run through
discriminating against them
FEMA
because
camps.
of their faith?
Get reborn.
We've heard these suggestions during the course of this campaign. Do Republican officials actually agree with this? Because that's not the America we want.
Not the American we want. Who the
Doesn't
fuck is
reflect our
this we
democratic
you're
ideals.
talking about?
It won't make us more safe, it will make us less safe. Fueling ISIL's notion that the West hates Muslims. Making young Muslims
Well,
in
you
this
get rid of your
country and
Sharia
around
laws
the
and
world
maybe he won't hate you so much.
feel like no matter
And
what they
quit
do,
consuming other countries
they're
and
gonna
their
be under
people
suspicion
to where it's only their religion.
under
And
attack.
if you're not in after they take over your country, you know, you get treated like shit.
it makes Muslim
Worse than
Americans feel
shit.
like their government is betraying them.
And you can't do anything about it. to protect yourself because it's the
It
hero
betrays
law
the
backed them up.
values America stands for. We've gone through moments in our history before when we acted out of fear, and we came to regret it. We've seen our government mistreat our fellow citizens. And it has been a shameful part of our history. This is a country founded on basic freedoms, including freedom of religion. We don't have
Religion,
religious tests
not
here.
cults. Look at Waco. They're kind of a cultist. What happened to
Our
them people?
founders, our
What happened to their
Constitution, our
religion?
Bill of Rights.
Jim
are clear
Jones, a
about
little
that.
cult. What happened to their religion?
And if we ever abandon those values, we would not only make it a lot easier to radicalize people here and around the world, but we would have betrayed the very things we are trying to protect. The
Islam.
pluralism and the openness, our rule of law, our civil liberties, the very things that make this country great, the very things that make us exceptional. And then the terrorists would have won. And we cannot let that happen. I will not let that happen. You know, 2 weeks ago I was at the commencement ceremony at the Air Force Academy. And it could not have been more inspiring to see these young people stepping up, dedicated to serve and protect this country. And part of what was inspiring was the incredible diversity of these cadets. We saw cadets who are straight applauding classmates who were openly gay. We saw cadets born here in America applauding classmates who were immigrants and loved this country so much they decided they wanted to be part of our armed forces. We saw cadets and families of all religions applaud cadets who are proud, patriotic Muslim Americans, serving their country in uniform, ready to lay their lives on the line to protect you and to protect me. We saw male cadets applauding for female classmates who can now serve in combat positions. That's the American military. That's America. One team, one nation. Those are the values that ISIL's trying to destroy. And we shouldn't help them do it. Our diversity and our respect for one another, our drawing on the talents of everybody in this country, our making sure that we are treating everybody fairly, that we're not judging people on the basis of what faith they are, or what race they are, or what ethnicity they are, or what their sexual orientation is.
Well, that's what the Muslims are doing. Everything you just said.
That's what makes this country great. That's the spirit we see in Orlando. That's the unity and resolve that will allow us to defeat
So it
ISIL.
seems this will come around to the
That's
gays
what will preserve our values and our ideals.
will have to be the
that
ones to
define us
clear
as
out the
Americans.
Muslims in their mosque, take their
That's how we're going to
weapons,
defend this
munitions,
nation.
their
And
food,
that's how we're going to defend our way of life.
put them in FEMA camps.
Thank you very much.
You got to be reborn.
President Obama
Well, he
very
won't be an
stern in
American.
his reaction to people who have criticized him for